What's going on, guys? It's Cal here from Buffalo SportsCenter. And I know last week was rough, but let's get right into this week. The Bills will be playing the Texans Sunday at 1 o'clock, finally a 1 o'clock game, so we don't have to play a primetime game this week. It is on the road, but it is what it is. Again, last week was rough. Again, how do you lose to the Ravens by that much on Sunday Night Football? Well, I'll tell you how. Defensive injuries, right? Terrell Bernard and Taron Johnson, and I guess you could add Matt Milano in that conversation all season long. Not being on the field is just, it's a recipe for disaster, and we saw that against the Ravens. Again, the Ravens are a terrible matchup for the Bills, especially when they're injured, because our run defense wasn't there. You could tell on the first play of the game it was going to be a murder because Derrick Henry took that ball 70-something yards to get, 7-0 early on in that game. Again, without a run defense, with all the backups in the game, you were never winning that game with the ability of Lamar Jackson to just, hand that ball off to one of the best running backs in the league or just take it himself for 10 to 15 yards a carry. And then, the lack of run defense ended up costing our pass defense as well because, when you sell out on the run like that, you don't have the pieces to stop the run. All of a sudden, you start bringing safeties down, and you got one safety up. Taylor Rapp ends up getting hurt, so Cole Bishop gets thrown into the game. And you just got a bunch of inexperienced guys on that defense. I'm not worried at all about this team. Once they get healthy, I think they'll be fine. But I'm a little bit more concerned about the offense, to be honest. The offense just didn't have anything going. This was the first week where we really saw that our receivers are kind of weak this year. Again, Keon Coleman had a couple of nice catches, but had that big drop that, really could have swung the game in a different direction at the end of the first half. The run game just wasn't there. I mean, Cook played pretty solid for the amount of reps he got, but when you're trailing like that, you cannot really rely on your run game that much. Josh Allen had his first kind of weak game of the season, just missed a couple throws, made a couple bonehead moves where there was a slant, I think it was to Mac Hollins, where he threw what should have been an easy interception, but the guy ended up dropping it. So, a little bit lucky there from Allen. And then, of course, that terrible trick play that Joe Brady cooked up. Again, all the momentum was shifting, and then we did that, and it just went from bad to worse after the fumble. Allen ended up getting banged up on that a little bit, Kincaid as well, but they both seem fine, and they will practice this week. But just a disaster game for the Bills, but I think most of it had to do with injuries. I'm more concerned about the offense. The defense will get healthy, but man, without wide receivers this year, it's going to be tough. Keon Coleman better get learning quick because, again, you can't rely on Kincaid to be your number one receiver all season long. It's just not going to happen. Let's talk about the big storyline this week, though. Stefon Diggs back to face the Bills. Now, it'd be a little more fun if he was coming into Buffalo because we would get to see that crowd reaction. Whereas in Houston, I'm sure there'll be a lot of Bills fans traveling down there, but not enough to really gauge the fan base's love or hate for Stefon Diggs. So we'll see a lot of it on social media, but you really want to see that in-stadium reaction. If this game was in Buffalo and Stefon Diggs starts walking out by himself, to warm-ups, is there a lot of cheers? Is there a lot of boos? Personally, I think there'd be more boos. I think Stefon Diggs was kind of, I think it was a mutual split, but then once he kind of started talking bad about Buffalo, some subtle jabs here and there, and then once we really figured out that he was a big problem and Allen's made some jabs back at him, again, without confirming, but we know clear as day what he means when he says it's nice to have a team that, no one cares really about stats and everyone wants to contribute. So we know what he means by that. And there's definitely some bad blood between Diggs and the whole Bills organization. So we'll see if any of that comes out this game. If Diggs has some catches, does he hit a little bit more of a celly? We'll see what happens. Again, the Texans, they were supposed to be a Super Bowl favorite, and they're still on track, but at 3-1, they really haven't impressed me yet. They barely beat the Bears. They barely beat the Jaguars last week, right? So they're getting the wins, but they're not doing it in convincing fashion. Again, they have a lot of really good players, though. I mentioned Diggs. Nico Collins has just been great for them. Again, Tank Dell, when healthy, is a really good receiver as well. Danielle Hunter has been really good on defense. Laramie Tunsil's been a good offensive lineman. Again, Laramie Tunsil, if you don't know the story behind him, look him up. Quite the interesting draft story, but he's really turned into a solid player there. And then, of course, that duo in the back, you got Derek Stingley Jr., who struggled in his first year, and then last year he looked really good, and this year so far looks pretty solid. And then Will Anderson Jr. is just an absolute stud. I think he had like seven sacks last year or something like that. One defensive rookie of the year. And speaking of Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year for the AFC was on the same team, C.J. Stroud. And C.J. Stroud is a quarterback who man, I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. But again, he just doesn't seem to be completely comfortable in this offense yet this year. That offense just hasn't got going yet. But C.J. Stroud, I mean, you could compare him to Josh Allen, right? He's a bigger frame guy, has a cannon of an arm, can run. Just a smart player overall. So again, I look to see C.J. Stroud do nothing but develop and just become a better player each and every game. But again, you never know. We look around the league and there's guys like Anthony Richardson, who I thought was going to be better, and so far has looked really bad this year. And then there's guys like Jaden Daniels, where a lot of people thought he was going to really disappoint this year, and he's looked really good through 4 weeks. So again, it's too early to say, but again, trust the process. I think this Texans team is going to be really good this year. So I don't know. For this game, I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to, a lot of people are going to be picking different sides here. So with that being said, let's see what our BSC panel has to say for this one.
Allen to throw on 3rd and short. Dawson Knox. Touchdown maker. 3 weeks in a row with a score from 25 yards out.
This is such a good job by Josh Allen.